My bad, y'all. I got caught up watching bunny eating videos. Today we are going to go over the dark history of Easter and the meaning of April Fools. Let's just get straight into the video because you know how I feel about intros. Also, let's just get a little information from yours truly. Can we talk about the dark history of Easter? You gotta make sure you check outside. On the first Sunday after the full moon, they would celebrate by baking cakes, getting drunk, and committing other heinous crimes. Women were required to celebrate the conception by laying down at the temple of Ishtar and having relations with anybody who walks in. There is a very, very dark history on why they color eggs. These were sacrificed, and the blood of the eggs were dipped in the eggs for Ishtar. Decorating eggs seems harmless until you consider the origins of it. Just a little background on the resurrection part. The Egyptians believed in the resurrection of the sun. You guys believe in the resurrection of the sun. Do you see the sun behind his head? So if I have showed you that Easter is a pagan holiday and it came from something, what makes you think that the resurrection of the sun didn't come from the resurrection of the sun? So are you really celebrating something that was a source? Now, for all my Christians out there, I'm gonna let a pastor explain the situation to y'all before we get into April Fools, which is really interesting because everybody's being fooled on Easter.
You're right. Everything goes back to Babylon. I don't care what it is. In Babylon, they had a goddess of fertility. Her name was, interestingly, Ishtar. I-S-H-T-A-R. That's where we get our word Easter from, was this pagan goddess of fertility. If you doubt this, by the way, go home tonight in your encyclopedia and look up Easter in your encyclopedia. It'll tell you the whole story that I'm going to tell you right now. It's in every history book. And what they did, this goddess of fertility called Ishtar, they worshipped her in the springtime. You know why? Because everything was coming to life. And she was the one that caused all life and everything to grow anyway. So they thought she got very active in the springtime. So they honored her always on the first Sunday after the first full moon, after the equinox. That was Ishtar's day, because she was the goddess of fertility, the goddess of reproduction. And you know what happens, folks? They took that then, and they celebrated this day of her in her honor, and so did Medo-Persia, and so did Greece. In fact, Greece had her under another name called Venus. You ever heard of Venus before? That's Ishtar in Babylon, the same thing. And then you go to Rome, and Rome had this, and folks, the same thing. You come to Constantine. Constantine, about 300 years after Jesus, says, hey, we got all these pagans out here, and they're worshiping Ishtar on the first Sunday after the first full moon after the equinox. You know what? Jesus rose from the tomb in the springtime. It was Passover time and so on. Why don't we take this Ishtar's day, and instead of giving honor to Ishtar, the giver of life and so on, Jesus is the resurrection. Jesus is the life. Why don't we start to keep this day in honor of Jesus Christ? And we can win all these pagans to Christianity. And the Christian said, that's a great idea. And so, folks, he changed Ishtar's day to Easter Day in honor of Jesus' resurrection. And then as Papal Rome again rules the entire world for the next 1260 years, it passes that teaching on to everybody in the world, and the whole world does it, and nobody even thinks twice about it. But you all tell me, what in the world do chocolate chickies and bunny rabbits got to do with the resurrection of Jesus? Amen? Did you ever wonder about that? I bet you didn't. You know why? You've done it all your life. Everybody does it. But you know where it comes from? Make a guess. Babylon is right. Because, folks, in Babylon, they worshipped the egg on Easter's day, because an egg is a symbol of fertility. Not only that, they worship bunny rabbits on Easter's day. You know why? Because bunny rabbits are the most prolific reproducers in the world. I know. I grew up on a ranch. We had lots of rabbits. All rabbits do is make love and have babies. Isn't that right? Yeah. And so, honestly, they worship the rabbit. And we still have that today, all the way back from Babylon.
Now, this is what I want y'all to take away from this. Majority of Americans and people who have adapted to Christianity and Easter, we're still celebrating the same things that was celebrated back then. Do you see how time doesn't exist? We're still recycling the same energy. It just keeps constantly happening over and over again. We're still celebrating the same things, still in the same mindsets, still in the same constructs. Like it's getting like annoying. Like it's not producing any evolution. It's like the past and the present is still happening, and the future is happening right now too. All of it is happening all in right now. That is the spell. Just like the wars, the terrible stuff that's happening around this planet, the holidays, the hatred, the separation. You notice how everything is more mental now. At first, back then, it was physical. You can see the physical energy that was happening on this planet. The terrible history that was happening on this planet. Now people are in a state of mental slavery. The energy has never left us. Y'all see that? The energy has never left. Therefore, you're stuck in time. Past, present, future is all happening at once. Our past selves, the past is experiencing the same thing we're experiencing. But it's just mental. You free your mind, you free yourself, you can start evolving again and stop standing still. It's just like energy and feelings that you hold inside of you. That energy stays with you, and it'll stay with you all the way up until it's time for you to take your last breath. That's the same energy that has been happening over and over again on this planet. This energy is staying with us until we deal with it. It's just people are now in a mental, energetic state of being locked down, of not experiencing, of not evolving, of not ascending. Everybody's waiting for a day. So when it's time to rise up and go to heaven, that's not something that you wait on. That's something that you have to do within yourself. You don't wait for something to come out of the sky and it'll help you raise up and you'll be able to live in a more heavenly state. Your heavenly state depends on your mind. Where are you in here? Now, this came on my timeline as I was looking over my videos before I was about to hit recording. Watch this.
So Jubilee just posted a video, Black Christians versus Black Atheists. I want to play a clip that really resonates with me and how I feel about the spiritual world.
I study a sector of African spirituality, right? The way that I happened to stumble upon that, I started to ask myself questions like, who do my ancestors worship, right? What is the point of religion in general? How to proliferate around globally? Right. And doing research, you start to see that Christianity became synonymous with white supremacy around the 4th century with Constantine, the emperor. Right. In which they made it the Roman national religion. If you refuse to adhere to his Christian rule, then you would be beheaded. So I think that historically speaking, Christianity has been used to oppress and enslave a lot of people globally.
Did you hear what he said? He said, if you do not convert, you will be you're done. It's over with. So when you trickle down the line of the collective consciousness that has experienced this in the past, this is why it's so hard to break out of that loop, because of the trauma that has been enforced around the energy that you're trying to get out of.
Why April 1st is known as April Fool's Day. April Fool is actually originated in France in the 16th century, when the country switched from the Julian to the Gregorian calendar. The change meant that the new year was moved from the end of March to January 1st, but not everyone was aware of the change. Those who continue to celebrate New Year's Day on April 1st were mocked and labeled as April Fools. Regardless of its origin, April Fool's Day has become a worldwide tradition, with people playing pranks on friends, family. The day is typically marked by practical jokes and general mischief.
So y'all know how a certain community arose in 2020, right? And a different genders started to come out. It became a conversation and an argument within society, right? Just like the same people were being made fun of because they were still celebrating that the New Year's happened at the end of March. It's the same way that people were actually thinking the ideology of male and female is that that's the only, gender. So certain things became normal due to social constructs that was just pushed on to people. Do you get it now? The same thing that's happening in the past is happening now. The energy has never left. The energy has never been dealt with. So it's going to continue to recycle into new things, but it's still the same energy. It's like you going through your life and dealing with the same type of man or the same type of woman because you have not evolved your consciousness. You can't solve a problem with the same consciousness that started the problem. You have to think differently. You have to change your perception on it. But let's go to the 14th century on April Fools and see how this still continues to keep recycling. Okay, y'all, so this video is very informative. I want you to listen to what he's saying. I know that it's an old video and it might sound a little disorienting, but try to educate yourself and have patience, okay?
Interesting things I found out was April Fool's Day, they don't talk about it, but what happened on April 1st, according to tradition in Spain, is that they told all the Moors, they said, we've kicked out the Jews and you're friends of the Jews, you can go. We've got ships waiting for you, you can go back to Morocco. You've lost the war in Spain, but we'll let you go. And So they said, we don't believe you. Well, they saw there were ships waiting for them. So they left. And while they left, in between going to their ships, they burned their houses and burned the ships. So they were homeless. This was on April 1st, 1492. This becomes April Fool's Day. Ha ha ha. You've been fooled. This is a denigration of the Moors, which is by the Catholic Church. And there was the siege of Granada where they built the town of Santa Fe.
All right, for the people who can't see it, I'm going to read it for you. 1492 was a big year for the Spanish crown. In January, they conquered the last Moorish stronghold in Granada. This effectively vanquished any power or revolt cultural influence the Moors still possessed. On March 31st of the same year, a proclamation was issued formally expelling all Jews from Spain. The next day was April 1st, a day which to be forever remembered in the traditions and lexicon of our culture. Up until this point, the Moors were conquered but had not been officially expelled or sanctioned. According to the long-standing traditions, on April 1st, 1492, the Spanish executed a diabolical plot against the Moors. Any Moor who remained in Spain at the time had been told they could return to their home country of Morocco. Knowing the Moors were a suspicious lot, the Spaniards provided sailing vessels and docked them at port. When the Moors saw the vessels, they trusted that the Spaniards were not lying and proceeded to take their belongings and families to the ships. As the Moors left their homes behind, the Spanish set fire to them. The ships either set sail or were burned as well, thus leaving the Moors as the first victims of what was known as April Fools. It has been a celebrated tradition since that time. And that was a very interesting history lesson on April Fools and Easter. Now, this video is for my new subscribers and to anybody who needed a refresher on the history of Easter and April Fools. I hope this gave y'all a little bit of education today, and I hope that y'all have a good rest of y'all day. Please enjoy your life and continue to keep creating, and make sure y'all come back to see another one. I love y'all, and thank you for watching.